Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Philadelphia Phillies. In the week we celebrate our nation's history, the Mets are back in town after a 4-3 road trip. Kind of a strange trip, 3 poorly played games and 4 excellent ones. The Mets are riding high as they head home for the final week before the All-Star break, hoping to put a hurt on one of their top rivals in the National League East. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen. I'll be joined by Keith Hernandez and Ron Darling in just a moment as the Mets open a 3-game series against the Philadelphia Phillies. The Mets come in after a 4-3 road trip for their final week before the All-Star break, 3.5 games behind the front-running Nationals in the National League East. As for the Phillies, though, the 5-time defending division champions, 11 games out in the East, 8 games out in the wild card. They've lost 5 straight games after getting swept by Florida over the weekend, and the Mets are in a unique spot here right before the All-Star break. They can really put a hurting on Philly's chances and change their demeanor heading toward the trading deadline.
Now remember, too, though, that this is a Philly team over there that has really rubbed their thumb in the Mets' eyes over the years since they've been dominating the National League East. And nothing would be better to turn the tables. And you get a sense that the power structure is changing in the National League East. Now, the Phillies, of course, have had their 2 main stars, Utley and Howard, injured. Utley has been back only a couple games. But this is a big opportunity for the Mets to finish strong before the All-Star break. They're 3.5 out. They're right in the hunt.
And with the Phillies, we know about Utley and Howard, but particularly with the loss of Roy Halladay, their vaunted starting pitching has really struggled now for more than a month.
Well, you think about their last 42 games, their ERA is over 5, and that's something you would never see out of a Charlie Manuel team. They struggled. Halladay was the anchor of that team. Lee doesn't have a win yet. But when you think of this club, I am not comfortable saying or burying them at any point because I've watched them the last 5 seasons. So it is a chance, though, for the Mets not look to the All-Star break to have a good homestand.
Mets, of course, have been relying on red-hot starting pitching, and John Neese, who comes off a terrific month of June, makes his first start in July.
Well, Jonathan has been so good. Remember that start where the Mets scored 17 runs? The only talk really was of the offense, but the talk could have been of Jonathan Neese also pitching in those windy conditions. He only allowed a run in 8 innings.
And for the Phillies, Vance Worley, who wrapped around an injury, has actually pitched pretty well for Philadelphia this year.
He really has. He had an amazing rookie year last year and 21 starts last year for the Philadelphia Phillies. They were 16-5.
So the Mets and Phillies renew their rivalry at Citi Field the day before the 4th of July. Fireworks after the game. Mets for hoping for some fireworks during it. First pitch coming up. Brought to you by Citi, proud sponsor of the New York Mets. By Budweiser. By AT&T, rethink possible. By Parts Authority, auto parts superstores, but the answer is always yes. By New York State, discover what you love, plan your vacation now. And by Kia Motors. Ballpark Barbecue at Citi Field tomorrow afternoon before the Mets host the Phillies at 1:10 for just $49. Your ticket includes a pregame, all-you-can-eat barbecue and beverages. Visit Mets.com/BBQ now for your tickets. Here's your Subway upcoming schedule. You can listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. Those 4 blank spots coming right up. All-Star break beginning on Monday. Mets with 6 games to play, 3 with the Phillies, 3 with the Cubs before they get there. Then they go to Atlanta and Washington, a big road trip coming up right after the All-Star break. First things first, though, John Neese makes the start against Charlie Manuel, who's never had a Phillies team lose more than 77 games. They got a chance this year. Forward starting lineup for the Phillies tonight. Phillies have Chase Utley back, his 4th start since returning from the disabled list. Hit a home run in his first at bat coming back from the DL. Carlos Ruiz going to the All-Star game for the first time at age 33, hitting cleanup these days, awaiting the return of Ryan Howard.
Jonathan Neese on the mound for the Mets. You can see his fine 6-3 record. Good ERA because he's had a couple of bad starts that have elevated that ERA, and his control has been impeccable. Last 5 starts hasn't issued any more than a walk.
And the Metropolitan Lexus defense. Well, they've made a lot of errors this year, and that's, I mean, like Gary, you mentioned it. When they lose ugly, and there's 63 errors. That leads the National League. And they've made 15 errors. In 15 games, they've made 2 or more errors this season. So, but they're right in the hunt. They are a resilient bunch.
You saw in that defense, Andres Torres playing center field. Kirk Neuenhuis was in the lineup until about 5 minutes ago. He was scratched because of a right hand contusion suffered during batting practice. We don't have any more information than that. And so Kirk is sitting tonight, and Torres a late addition to the lineup. Jimmy Rollins leads off. First pitch from Neese, a fastball for a strike, and we're underway. Phillies just got swept in Miami. the last 3 of a 5-game losing streak, and Rollins went 0 for Miami and quickly behind on the count 0-2.
But Jimmy Rollins, for some reason, when he sees blue and orange, it brings the best out in him. He has always been a Met killer.
Placido Polanco on deck, then Chase Utley for the Phillies. Mets and Phils playing for the 10th time this year. The Mets have had the upper hand. And Rollins tries to hold and does in time. Tim Timmons with the call down at first, 1-2. Mets won 5 of 6 in Philadelphia in 2 early series, but then the Phils took 2 of 3 here at Citi Field.
That's a swing, by the way.
And so is that, and he pops one behind first. Back comes Davis along the line to pull it in foul ground for the first out of the night. So 1 out and nobody on. Here's your umpiring crew for tonight. Jeff Kellogg, the crew chief. Marty Foster has the plate. Tim Timmons has already made a call, and Eric Cooper over at third tonight.
Well, I'll be looking very intently this series, Gary, at the Phillies, their demeanor, how they react if they fall back early. They're 11 games out. They're in last place. They're on the edge of a cliff. They're practically falling over. And to see how they react to this adversity.
Well, the Phillies are 11 games out of first place, 8 games out of the wild card, and going into the break, they've got these 3 games and then 3 with the Braves. Smack to center field, a long run back for Torres, and he'll get there to retire Polanco for the second out. So, you know, with 6 games before the break, 11 games out, you have a bad week, you could be 15 games out of first place at the break.
And that is, it can be done. I mean, there's been tremendous comebacks in the second halves of seasons, but they're very rare.
Well, here's Utley, whom the Phillies waited almost 3 months to get into the lineup this year. Problems with his knees, which have been balky for a couple of years now. He played just 115 games in 2010. He played just 103 games last year, and he'll play far fewer than that this season. And he takes a fastball for a strike from Neese.
You know, guys, it's very rare, but if they hold their head above water, there's no team in baseball that gets a Roy Halladay back. There's no team in baseball that is going to get a Ryan Howard back. So that's the key for them.
But, you know, we've seen that scenario with the Mets over the last few years. You get players hurt, and you talk about, okay, we're just going to tread water till those guys come back.
Right.
And that hasn't worked out from the Mets standpoint. Terry Collins has taken a very different approach to that. So we got to win with the guys who are here. Utley pops one up in foul ground. Right racing down, and he and Toley come together, and Toley puts it away to retire the side. A 9-pitch inning for John Neese to get the night started. Mets come to bat when we come back. By Geico. Ruben Tejada in the leadoff spot. First time since before he got hurt back on May the 4th. Last time he hit leadoff. Ike Davis now appears to be a fixture again in the cleanup spot with his hot bat.
Well, Vance Worley, nice ERA, 2.92 so far this year, 15-7 in his career. In his start against the Mets earlier this year, done in by the home run ball. David Wright hit a solo home run in the first. Lucas Duda followed up with a 3-run home run in the fourth.
So here's Tejada, who over the last 5 games is 10 for 22, has that average up to 317, and so rewarded by Terry Collins with his first stint in the leadoff spot since coming back from 7 weeks on the disabled list, and Worley misses inside for ball 1.
But one thing that Ruben does for such a young hitter, he has a very good eye. He shortens up with 2 strikes. He's a tough strikeout, and he draws walks.
Lately, Andres Torres has been doing a lot of the leading off for the Mets, and he's given them some stolen bases lately as Tejada yanks one foul. The problem is that Torres is the only speed guy the Mets have, but his base running lately has been a little bit reckless.
Well, he's not alone in that department. And they always seem to have a Met loss attached to it when they make mental errors as well as physical errors.
And when you put Tejada in the leadoff spot, you have a better on base percentage guy, but not a guy who's going to steal a base for you. 2-1 now from Worley.
It's interesting for me when I see pitchers approach Tejada. I think they can knock the bat out of his hands. They pitch him middle of the plate in. He has such a quick bat and shortish arms that is right into his strength.
There was a time last year when he was playing a lot when that might have actually been the case, because he got tired in the middle of the season. Yeah, but I don't think that's true anymore.
Yeah, I think he's just his swing is definitely shorter than it was last season.
And also he's stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, we mentioned it during spring training this year how Ruben put on a good 7 to 10 pounds of upper body strength, and at age 22 he's filling out a little bit. I get more and more impressed by this guy every day. Ruiz moves away, and the pitch was not away, and Tejada hammers it foul.
And the Coors Light Philadelphia Philly defense, you got some gold all over that ball, all over that outfield there. You got Victorino with gold, Rollins with gold, Polanco.
The gold is getting a little long in the tooth, though.
It is, though, but you know, it's depends on the carrot.
Gold foul. I'm not quite sure what that means.
Get a little more metal in that, little alloy in there.
Carry with a K. 24-year-old Vance Worley, 3rd-round pick in 2008 out of Long Beach State. A terrific rookie season last year. He's pitched just as well this year, just doesn't have the wins to show for it. Now the 2-2, and he comes inside, and Tejada's already seen 7 pitches in this opening at bat. Worley missed about 2.5 weeks on the disabled list with some elbow inflammation. Second part of May and early June, but he's come back and pitched very well since then. 3-2 to Tejada, and he continues the long at bat to open the first inning.
Did you notice the reaction from Worley? Kind of like keep throwing him that little sinker down and in, and keep staying in the hunt.
And it becomes frustration for a pitcher. It really does. Gary, those are the sport glasses you were looking for in 1970.
Jeez. But somehow the Jetsons
a little better than they used to be, though.
Better look than those ones with the big slab of rubber in the middle. 9th pitch of the at bat, and Tejada bounces that one foul. Well, Neese threw just 9 pitches to get through the first inning, and Worley's already thrown 9 and hasn't gotten through the first batter. Tim Tuffle makes a friend. Made that guy's 9th. He'll be texting about that in a moment. The Mets as a team have certainly been able to work pitchers. It's been a big part of their offensive success. 10th pitch of the at bat, and it'll be an 11th. This is turning into a classic to start the night for Tejada. Mets lead the league in drawing walks. They have the 4th highest on base percentage in the league, and for a team without a whole lot of power or speed, that has been crucial. And with it, the Mets are 3rd in the league in runs scored. Pitch number 11 upcoming from Worley to Tejada. And he lifts it out to left field, and over comes Mayberry And that's the first out of the inning. So a hard fought out for Worley to start the bottom of the first. And there you see the offensive ranks. Still well near the bottom of the league in home runs. Not mentioned there. They're second to last in the league in stolen bases. But the on-base percentage has fueled the runs. That and all the 2-out hits.
Well, there's no surprise. I mean, the number of runs per game is excellent. And with this starting rotation, the way they pitched, they keep you in the hunt, don't they? Yeah. They more than keep you in the hunt.
Here's Daniel Murphy, whose bat has picked up over the last week. He hit his first 3 home runs of the year on the road trip, 2 in Chicago, 1 in L.A. So after a slump that stretched for about 3 weeks, Murphy appears to be back on the beam and up in that number 2 hole in the lineup. Terry Collins has been rather concerned over the last couple of weeks about lineup structure, particularly with the Mets set to face another spate of left-hand pitching coming up. And it's one of his concerns that his left-hand hitters, his young left-hand hitters like Murphy, Duda, and Davis, handle lefties better. Down the left field line, and Mayberry over to make a slide, and he comes up empty, and it's a fair ball, and it rolls all the way to the wall, and Murphy is going to head for third. Here comes Mayberry's throw, not in time. It's a triple for Daniel Murphy. Well, Mayberry approached the sidewalk cautiously before going into that slide.
He did not really bust over there. That ball tailing away from him. And this is the guy, he's got to make this play. It was all about him not really busting quick when he broke off the bat. You got to make this play. If you're Murphy, you'll take it.
Second triple of the year for Daniel Murphy, and for the Mets, only their 10th triple of the season. They've had fewer triples than any team in the league. And a chance for an early run against Worley. The infield will play back against David Wright. And he takes a curveball for a strike from Worley. Now David's going to the All-Star game, but not in the fashion that we had anticipated. Beaten out in the voting for the starting position at third base, somewhat remarkably, by Pablo Sandoval. But David will go to Kansas City as an NL reserve, and he bounces that one to third. Polanco with a nice pickup. He'll have to go to first with it. Murphy breaking nicely on contact, comes in with the first run of the game, and it's 1-0 New York. RBI number 51 for David Wright.
Well, watch what Murph does here. It's early in the game, contact. I agree. They're playing back. Good break. Now watch Murph, if we can get him in there. He cuts inside the line, and that's why Polanco decided to go to first base. He was going to go home, make the play, and he had a shot at it. But Murph very wisely ran inside the line and created a barrier there for the throw.
That was textbook going on contact, though. Great jump.
So 2 out and nobody on. Mets with an early run, and here's Ike Davis, who has continued his hot hitting. Davis over the last 19 games hitting .333, 24 runs batted in those 19 games, in part because of his continued penchant to hit his home runs with multiple men on base. Yeah, Worley gets ahead of him 0-2. In fact, Davis has hit 7 home runs with at least 2 men on base. It's more than any other player in the majors. Well, nobody else has more than 5.
Well, I'll tell you what, his 45 RBI with really hitting .203 coming to this game. For him to have that many RBIs with the first 3 months of this season, it's quite remarkable.
Well, 28 of those 45 have come on his 11 home runs. Yeah. That's a lot of RBIs for 11 home runs.
That could be what Ike is, that kind of power. And I mean, he had 24 RBIs in June, third most in the National League. I mean, he is, if he can get it going the second half, the first half is forgotten. And it's not a bad first half now with the 45 ribeye steaks.
It's a little better than what we saw in Chicago with Giovanni Soto with 5 home runs and 10 RBI.
Well, certainly the last 3 weeks have been far different for Ike as Lucas Duda hopes for a turn on deck.
And really, he is more suited for the cleanup role than Lucas.
2-2 from Worley, and it's fouled off. Hard-working first inning for Vance Worley. Starting with that 11-pitch extravaganza. Tejada flying out to start the inning, making an out, but still a productive out, you'd have to say.
He hasn't gotten that pitch. He likes to throw that fastball inside, right at the hitter's hip, that comes back on the inside corner. That is that strikeout pitch for Worley.
Now the 2-2 to Davis, and the curveball bounced down to first. Ty Wigginton waits for it, and the side retired, but the Mets cash an early run. The Murphy triple. Wright drives him in with the ground out to give John Deese a 1-0 lead. It's still nice in Bryant Park this time of the evening. Not for the second inning, and Carlos Ruiz will dig in, accepting Josh Tolley's congratulations for making the All-Star team. Ruiz at age 33 making the All-Star team for the first time. The National League will send 3 catchers. Buster Posey voted in, and Ruiz and Yadier Molina. It's a pretty nice trio.
Right.
Ruiz hitting at .356 to lead the National League. First pitch swinging, lifts one to deep left center. Hairston back on the track at the wall. Wow. It's out of here. Well, Carlos Ruiz has been swinging early in the count, and it has paid off for him this year. It's his 12th home run of the year, and he ties up the game at 1.
Well, Ruiz pretty much in the same position all-star wise as David Wright. Should be the starting catcher for the Nationals. Fastball, cutter that just didn't get in there, Ronnie. So it got in, but not much.
It took the Mets about 16 minutes to score their run. 6 seconds for the Phillies.
So Ruiz ties it with a home run. Now Hunter Pence sitting 5th in the order. Takes a fastball for a strike.
Well, kind of hoping here, Ron. Please stay in.
I'll tell you, last year you knew that ball was not a home run. Knew it off the bat.
Yep.
It might be a hit, but you knew it was not out of the ballpark. And this year, because of the new configuration, there it is.
Well, I think the dimensions are fair.
Oh, and
still a big park, too.
I agree.
I feel. I agree.
A little looper, and Murphy just tall enough to snag it. Timed his lead perfectly to take a hit away from Pence. 1 away.
Nicely done, Daniel. No bad hops in the air.
Although we tend to forget this is a guy that's had reconstructive surgery on both knees. I mean, pretty athletic.
Still wears a brace on that right knee. Showed pretty adequate hops. Here's Shane Victorino. Victorino's hit in 8 straight games, and he takes the curveball for a strike. In his start against the Cubs, Nice didn't really throw a whole lot of curveballs. He threw mostly cutters in that start in Chicago. Victorino hits a 2-hopper to right. And David with a sweet pickup for the second out.
Nice play by David here. Watch him come rush in. He reads it, come in for that short hop. Nicely done. And we'll take another look at it here. He reads the hop. I'm going to come in and get the quick hop as quickly as possible. I don't want the in-between hop. David's really played a nice third base the first half of the season.
Here's Ty Wigginton hitting 7th in the order and playing first base. A placeholder until Ryan Howard is ready. Howard is out on rehab now, and Phillies hope to have him shortly after the All-Star break. And there's a curveball for a strike, 1-1.
Gary, you were mentioning Nice's pitches in Chicago. Not a lot of curveballs, just a lot of cutters. But one thing he did use that the pitching staff and Terry Collins very happy about is his use of his changeup.
Wigginton shoots one into right for a base hit.
Well, let's not forget the last series at home here. Wigginton had a great series.
Let's check out the inside pitch on John Nice, brought to you by the Xerox Business of Baseball. Xerox, ready for real business.
Well, Mayberry Jr., of course, 3 home runs off Jonathan Nice in his career. I talked about his control. Only 1 walk for each of the last 5 starts, and he keep using that changeup. The pitching coach, Dan Worthen, and Terry Collins would love him to use that changeup more.
We mentioned Mayberry. He's got 3 home runs in his career against Nice. The only player who has 3 home runs against Nice in his career. It was a cutter for a strike. Mayberry's had a disappointing year, though. He's hitting just .230 with a .266 on base percentage.
57 strikeouts, only 9 walks.
Not what the Phillies were hoping for from this young slugger. And he gets tied up by that cutter and foul tips at 0-2.
When they let go of Jason Worth, they thought Ben Francisco would be the guy. They thought maybe Dominic Brown could be the guy. They thought John Mayberry Jr. could be the guy. And Mayberry Jr. at times has played well, but not this year.
He's ahead of him 0-2, and he goes upstairs. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
I'm kind of waiting for Jonathan Nice to kind of blossom, Ronnie, just to turn into what I think he can be. I really think he can be a solid major league pitcher.
You know, the key for any young pitcher, Keith, is not what you see, not what I see, not what Gary sees, not what the pitching coach sees. It's what he sees himself doing. You know, how much confidence he has in himself. Am I one of the elite guys? Or not?
Well, already this year, he has made strides in terms of his game preparation, which is something that Dan Worthen really worked with him in terms of being prepared for what that day's particular opponent was going to present after a couple of poor starts early this year. And he ties up Mayberry and takes care of him with that cutter to end the inning. First strikeout for Nice. But the Phillies get even. Their all-star catcher Carlos Ruiz, first pitch he sees, leaves the yard, his 12th of the year. And this game tied at 1 in the second. Night Baseball on SNY is presented by Citi, introducing Citi Tuesdays, where Citi credit and debit card holders enjoy savings and benefits at Citi Field. Learn more at Mets.com/Citi Tuesdays. 1-1 game as we start the bottom of the second. Lucas Duda leads off against Vance Worley and takes on the inside corner a strike. Duda just 3 hits in his last 25 at bats. It'll be Duda, Hairston, and Torres for the Mets in the second against Worley, whom they're facing for the second time this year. The first time around, Duda hit a home run against Worley to help the Mets to a 5-0 win. That was back on April the 14th in Philadelphia. In fact, that was Worley against Nice in that start.
Yeah, they roughed Worley up pretty much. 2 home runs. They hit that ball game. They got 4 runs in 6 innings off of Worley. Rudy last year pitched great against the Mets, but he pitched pretty good, pretty tremendous against everybody last year.
And this is wide, 3-1. Now Worley, although he's pitched well against the Mets in Philly, has not pitched well here. His ERA at Citi Field is 6.3 in 3 career appearances. Now he's behind on Duda, 3-1 to start the inning. And Lucas takes high, ball 4. So a leadoff walk right after the Phillies tied the game for him. Well, there's the rotation for the Phillies, which got off to a very good start this year, as you would expect, and has been very poor over the last 40 or so games. Incomprehensible on the left with Cliff Lee, the fact that he has not won a game 3 months into the season.
Well, the anchor has been Hamels, of course. Kendrick, who replaced Halladay, having a tough go of it. Some of those losses, of course, coming in relief. But for Cliff Lee to not have a win, and we're in July, it's hard to believe.
Well, early, Cliff Lee was losing some tough ball games, but of late, he's been coughing it up.
Yeah, he's had leads that he has let get away on numerous occasions in the last month or so. Well, the Marlins with 6 runs in the 8th inning, tying up that game with Milwaukee. K-Rod was the culprit at the end of that 6-run inning. Swinging out of his socks, Mr. Hairston.
But watch his foot slip right when he goes into it. I think it's his back foot. Let me see.
Let your backbone slip.
See?
He never gets cheated, does he not? I mean, he takes a healthy hack.
He needs some stronger spikes.
So he has the plastic spikes on, right?
I'd never liked the plastic spikes.
There's the 0-2, and the curveball would not get him to bite. 1-2.
So does Ruiz. Catching with the plastic. You know what they do is they do not beat up your feet as much. That is definitely the truth. But you know, you spend a couple weeks in spring trainings with the steel spikes, just getting used to them because they hurt your feet for a while.
And gets him with a fastball, so Worley takes care of Hairston, his first strikeout.
I can tell you, up and in fastball right here after all the breaking stuff. Good spot, Ronnie. Ties him up.
His foot slips again.
As we evaluate those rubber spikes here at Citi Field.
So here's Andres Torres, a late addition to the lineup when Neuenhuis was scratched about 5 minutes before game time because of a bruised hand that he suffered during batting practice. And Torres takes a cutter for a strike.
Watch out for the guy that is the late addition to a lineup.
Oh. It's always more so with a starting pitcher when there's been a late change.
Yeah.
A last minute change.
Ruiz setting up well inside, and Torres fights it off, and it's 0-2.
You know, getting back to those metal spikes, Ronnie. You play a day game in St. Louis when they had AstroTurf in August, July. I can tell you that I went home and I've got branded under the soles of my feet.
Yeah.
And it was red. I was actually burnt.
You get yourself some insoles.
Jeez.
Protect you from your spikes.
I was trying to go to sleep. I was going, God, why are my feet so hot? I looked down there and I was like a cow. I was branded.
Cat on a hot tin roof.
Serious though. I'm being serious.
Torres takes one the other way, and there you go. He's got a base hit. Wasn't supposed to be in the lineup, and he's already produced a knot.
Tried to backdoor him here. See, it stays flat. It comes out over the outer half. And with 2 strikes, you know, a hitter's going to be a little more up the middle. Not the pitch he wanted to make.
That's nice for Torres, who was hitting just 158 as a left-hand batter coming into the night. Needs to get going from that side, which had traditionally been his better side. Here's Josh Thole hitting at 262, much better at home. Mets have their second hit against Worley. Murphy had a triple and scored in the first inning.
And Thole pulls one into right, a base hit. Duda got a slow start, and he'll be held at third as Pence slings it in, and the Mets have the bases loaded. Well, Duda, for some reason, did not read that ball well and did not get a good break off second base. Otherwise, he would have scored.
I'm beginning to wonder here if there's a little bit of uncertainty between Duda and Tuff at third here, and they had this past home road trip. Excuse me. Lucas just doesn't read it well, and I still felt he had a chance to score.
Now got the pitcher coming up. Still only 1 out, but the base is now loaded for Nice, looking for his first run batted in of the year. 4 hits and 22 at bats.
And John hits a comebacker, but it goes through Worley and into center field. Duda is in. Torres will score. Thole trying to go to third, and he's tagged out by Polanco on the throw from center by Victorino. But Nice drives in a pair, and the Mets have a 3-1 lead.
Well, good hitting by Jonathan. First ball, fastball hitting, and it's a play where if Worley makes the play, he's out of the inning. And he doesn't.
Boy, off the bat, Ronnie, that looks like a playable ground ball for a double play.
Just sometimes the speed beats you. I just don't think Worley got his glove down enough. You know, sometimes even pitchers are thinking about coming home first before they catch the baseball.
So the Mets have problems connecting on a potential 1-2-3 double play in Los Angeles Sunday night.
And, you know, another first and third situation down the tubes. I mean, Tole's got to realize the man in front of him on second base is the speedy Torres, and he's going to score on a ground ball base hit. So don't try to go first to third.
So instead, 2 out and a runner at first for Tejada. Well, we saw Hairston get thrown out at second base in the first inning Sunday night. Trying to take an extra base in a situation that didn't call for it.
Hit hard, the base hit for Tejada. So the Mets have their 4th straight hit against Worley, and now 2 men on for Murphy.
You know, Keith, when you mention that, I think you always want to be intelligently aggressive in your base running, but really what it shows you, bottom line, the Mets just don't have a lot of speed.
It's a fine line you walk, right? When you don't have a lot of speed, but you also don't have a lot of power, so you want to be aggressive on the base paths. So how do you balance that out?
You get it for Lucas Duda's case. You have a better read when you're on second base on a line drive that splits the infielders. That's how you get a better read.
Well, the thing to do from a base running standpoint, and I don't want to just beat a dead horse here, when you're Thole coming around second, you watch the throw in. You make a hard turn and you read the throw. If it's over the cutoff man's head, then you go to third.
2 out and 2 on. Murphy
Swings and flies one toward the gap in left center. Mayberry won't get there. Another extra base hit for Murphy. Nice is in. Here comes Tejada, waved home. The throw to the plate by Rollins and the tag by Ruiz, and they get Tejada at the plate. A great relay throw by Rollins and a good tag by Ruiz, but Murphy drives in a run. The Mets score 3 runs in the second and take a 4-1 lead. Mets lose 2 runners on the bases in that second inning as Tejada is tagged out by Ruiz to end the inning. Nice plate block by Ruiz. 4-1 New York after 2.
John contributing 2 runs batted in during that 3-run second. The pitcher Vance Worley will lead off for the Phillies in the third, and we're very pleased to be joined from the Mets dugout by Mets hitting coach Dave Hudgens. Always good to have the batting coach on after a 3-run inning.
That's right.
Yeah, your guys' timing is great.
Hey, the number one project for you over the first 3 months of the season was Ike Davis, and it seems as though Ike has finally found his way out of the woods. How many different things did you need to try over the course of a couple of months to get Ike to the point where he could find his way to where he is now?
Yeah, he went through quite a few different scenarios. He just tried to get comfortable. He's always had a lot of movement in his swing, and it's really tough to make adjustments when you have that much movement in your swing. So what finally he ended up doing, just spreading out, trying to keep his head still. He's got that hitch in his swing, which causes some timing issues. But he tried to minimize the movement as much as he could, and it's kept his head a little bit more still. He's seeing balls a little bit better. So what was happening before, he's swinging so many pitches that were out of the zone. He's minimized his head movement a little bit, so he sees the ball a little bit better, so he can lay off those pitches.
Dave, is it something now? Hitters come up. They've hit since they're 5 years old. It's hard when they got to the big leagues with success, obviously. It's hard to make them change radically. Do you just try to tinker a little bit here and there, or do you try to make, if things are going so badly, like Ike had such a terrible start for the first 2.5 months, was there radical changes?
Not really. I mean, you don't want to, like you said, you're not going to change a guy the way he swings. His swing is his swing. And what you want to try to do is just minimize some of the things that are happening in his swing. With Ike, with so much movement in his swing, head moving so much, you just try to minimize what he's doing a little bit without really changing his swing per se. But I think once he minimized it a little bit, and he started to lay off some pitches, and he got a couple knocks, and his confidence got rolling a little bit, he started feeling better about himself. And we just tried to encourage him, and don't look at the scoreboard, don't look at your average. It's just at bat to at bat, pitch to pitch, control what you can control, and just play baseball.
Dave, with all the information out there, do you have to somewhat control some of your hitters and how much information they get? Some can take it all and use it, and some have a hard time.
Yeah, I've tried to minimize that from the day one since I got here. That a lot of guys would look at we got bats, you got reports, you got percentages on everything they throw, what counts they throw it in, and guys can get overloaded a little bit. So I try to minimize it and try to keep it real general and just trust them in their ability and what their eyes see. It comes down to getting a good ball to hit, laying off the stuff you don't want to swing at, and really the best thing you can do, I think, as a hitting coach is make things as simple as possible.
Is there a particular guy that you have on this team who likes to get a lot of information to work with?
Not as much as it used to be. I mean, David Wright last year liked a lot of information, like counts, what guys threw in certain counts. He'd look at it before he went to hit. And I tried to encourage him not to look at it and trust himself and his swing. He's such a good hitter. And so that's what, most of the guys now just do the minimum.
Dave, thanks so much for joining us. Continued success.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Dave Hudgens, Mets hitting coach, joined us after a 3-run inning. John Neese made it easy with a 1-2-3 top of the third. He's got a 4-1 lead.
And made quick work of the Phillies in the top of the third. And the Mets will have the heart of the batting order coming up at the bottom of the third. By the way, our interview with Dave Hudgens brought to you by the Xerox business of baseball. Xerox ready for real business. And he mentioned David Wright cutting down on the information. You know, we go back to David's minor league career, and there were some seasons when he was starting to tire in the middle of the year, and they had to cut back his workload and tell him to stay out of the batting cage. So it's kind of a theme in David's career. Simpler is better.
Well, as you become more experienced, when you first come up to the big leagues as a hitter, I can only speak to the hitting part. You see fastball, you look fastball, you see ball and hit it. And then as you get more experience with success, as Wright grounds to second, you start to get familiar with the pitchers. But back when I played, there was no computerization and all that wealth of information. So you kind of got a sense of how the pitcher liked to work you, or that particular catcher called a game. It tells me that David's guessing. If he wants to know the percent, if he's the one that's mining all that information, pitcher X throws 60% curveball, 3-1, or blah blah blah, then he's guessing a lot. And I think what Dave Hudgens said, which was quite poignant, is trust yourself. Look fastball. You can adjust to a curveball. It's rare occasions you can look for a curveball with men on base. That's when you want to play the little coy Roy.
There's got to know guys, and there's talent, let it flow guys. And David Wright is a talent guy. Just let it flow.
See the ball, hit the ball.
It's always the best. Yep. Basics.
Work for Yogi Berra.
Yeah, that's it.
2-0 to Ike Davis. Ike grounded out to first base his first time up. Last 10 hits, all for extra bases for Ike. One shy of a Mets club record. And he goes after that high fastball, 2-1. Lucas Duda waits on deck. Mets had 5 straight hits to end the second inning. They had 1 out and 1 on, and then 5 straight hits. But they had 2 runners thrown out of the bases. Tolle thrown out at third, and then Tejada thrown out of the plate to end the inning.
And Davis hits one deep down the right field line, right toward the pole. Foul.
Just hooked it.
Not many people hit the ball further when they take the hand off the bat. Like Davis.
That was a changeup that got him out in front, and that's why he pulled it foul. But before in the past, that was either a change or a curve. Couldn't quite tell. But before he was swinging at the balls in the dirt, Ronnie didn't have to throw him strikes.
Yeah. Now the 2-2, and he can't dump the fastball on the outside corner and a full count.
People always talk about coming out of a slump by hitting the ball or getting a 3-run home run. I think Ike Davis came out of his slump by walking.
And he even said that. He said it was a matter of laying off the pitches in the dirt and drawing walks and convincing them they had to throw him strikes. Mayberry drifting back and has enough room to reel it in for the second out.
Well, when you stop laying off that pitch, I said earlier, you're going to now hit ahead in the count. And now Ike is also starting to swing at first ball fastballs. And he had some success.
And that's also an out, but that's a good at bat.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Duda, who walked leading off that 3-run second inning. We mentioned Lucas just 3 for his last 25, but he has been throwing a lot of walks lately, at least keeping himself somewhat productive at the plate even when he's not hitting. His on base percentage remains pretty good at .346.
I've always been a guy that likes guys that can walk as well as get hits, but I think Lucas is a guy that you want him swinging the bat. He's got too much power.
Do you think he's a little tentative right now?
No. They teach guys to hit in this little box, they call it now, their little area they like, and they look, and I think that box is too small. And I think you should have enough confidence. Lucas can handle anything waist down. That's his spot. And the only pitch that he should leave alone, and it's a pitch that most good hitters don't like, and I didn't like, is up and in. That's the pitch you got to be disciplined yourself to lay off.
Let's see if he's swinging here 3-0 with 2 out and nobody on. Be a good spot for it. takes one down the middle, 3-1. Let me ask you this: as Duda has struggled more and more on defense, do you think that affects him at the plate? Because clearly his defense has been a big concern as the season's gone along.
Well, I think also Lucas is a first baseman by trade, and he's a work in progress out there defensively too, and you can't expect miracles.
Utley circling a louder to his right. He can't make the play. Boy, Utley gave a lot of ground as he approached that ball. Even had he handled it cleanly, he would have had a tough time throwing him out.
Well, he comes in and just came up a little bit too quick. And he's kind of snow coned that one a little bit.
You know, we always talk about the inner clock for an infielder, and I think you're right, Gary. He took such a circuitous route to that ball. He knew he had to get rid of it so quickly. That's how he lost the handle.
You know, another thing about Lucas, Gary, from a defensive standpoint, he's not fleet of foot. I think he feels pressure that he has to get the proper jump, the quick step, on the quick break on a ball off the bat.
Here's Hairston, who struck out his first time up. But do you think it's affecting him at the plate?
That was a good question that we can direct. We can ask Lucas tomorrow. Oh,
Raleigh squirrel
worked for the Cardinals. Is that one of Webby's new cameramen?
It's Al. Al's Mr. Limpet. He turned into a squirrel, not a fish.
Wow, there he goes. It's not a black cat, but it's flushing wildlife nonetheless.
I bet you put that squirrel in center field.
My Great Dane would be chasing it out of the ballpark.
Yes, he doesn't know where to go.
There's the Mutual of Omaha card to read.
Marlon Perkins.
Marlon Perkins. He doesn't know where to go. Calm down.
We need a squirrel wrangler.
Take it easy.
These guys all eat the seeds. Let's have a little seed path.
1-2 to Hairston. Line shot down the left field line. Foul.
Well, the guy brought his glove and
took a double away from Hairston. No, I'm only kidding.
That was a bullet.
Not in vain. Nicely done. Oh, off the heel.
Two hands.
See? Oh, there you go.
Got to use two hands.
Rest my case.
Is there anybody in the game right now who consistently swings harder than Scott Hairston?
He does not get cheated. You got a chance when you swing the bat.
And he's getting to swing it a lot more this year than anybody would have anticipated.
Maybe Bautista.
Yeah. Well, hitting 50 bombs a year, you have to swing fairly hard. And another big cut by Hairston as he goes down to the curveball to end the inning. Second strikeout for Worley. 4-1 Mets after 3. Brooklyn Bridge heading, are we inbound or outbound? Looks like we're outbound. Traffic moving very well for a night before a holiday.
It wasn't this afternoon.
You're coming the opposite way, though, aren't you?
Oh, the traffic going out east was horrific.
Chase Utley leads off the 4th inning against John Neese. He takes up and in. Utley fouled out to the catcher his first time up. Just his 4th game of the season after missing the first 3 months. Now 33 years old. And I guess the question at this point is, after so many injury-plagued years, with first the hip and now the knees, how much of Chase Utley is he?
Again, I go back to all these teams that have decided to sign these players to 10-year contracts. 5 years ago, you would have said that about Chase Utley. He's going to play great until he's 40. What if he doesn't?
Well, you always think of a player playing with injury. You always think of Mickey Mantle, do you not?
Well, we've seen it in Utley defensively the last couple of years, that his play was not what it had been in prior years.
He just reminds me of some of the players that have come up that play a rough style of game, and I love watching it, by the way, and just take out second basemen, know how to play the game, get hit by 20+ pitches a year, and he doesn't have the Jeff Kent body or a thicker kind of body maybe to take that kind of abuse.
So they wear down over time. 3-2 from Neese. Hit sharply, but right at Tejada. And the overhand toss gets Utley by a stride. So Neese comes back from 3-0 and gets Utley on the ground out.
Get a complete recap of tonight's Mets-Phillies opener with insider info and opinion, plus Met fans, an in-depth breakdown of tomorrow's lineup as they get ready for Game 2 here at Citi Field. I can't wait. On the Mets blog presented by Verizon, featured on SNY.TV, on your online, home of all things New York sports.
That sounds exactly the same as it would have had I read that.
Oh, I stuttered, but it's okay.
Yeah, I would have too. It's the strike to Carlos Ruiz, who homered on the first pitch he saw tonight.
I wouldn't take you as a guy that would spend a lot of time on the Mets blog, but that's good to see.
We'll let Fred know he'll be very happy. The curveball bouncing away, and it's 1-1. Ruiz's home run was his 12th of the year and the 14th given up by John Neese this year. It's been about the only crimp in Neese's record this year has been the home run total.
4-in-1 game skew it just a bit.
Notice a steady diet of curveballs after giving up that kind of little nothing cutter that didn't break, so it was more like a fastball.
Well, he's looking for the ball middle of the plate in, throw one at his belt buckle, then he can go away. Let him know that you'll come inside off the plate.
Ahead 1-2. And Neese comes inside with the fastball, 2-2.
Boy, Ruiz must be seeing that ball pretty good. That ball was right at him. He didn't even move.
Player who started his big league career late and just keeps getting better and better. He has become the heart and soul of that Phillies team. Now Larry Dickey's starts to become events. And why not at 12-1? One more start before his stint in the All-Star game a week from tomorrow.
Amazing stuff. Congratulations on the All-Star selection. Well deserved.
Little tapper, and Neese comes off the mound. We'll throw out Ruiz, 2 out.
Well, considering this is the year of the one hitter for R.A. Dickey, he's going up Thursday against Cole Hamels, where he had his first one hitter.
You know, I know that Buster Posey is starting behind the plate, and Dickey may start and throw to Posey. But it would probably be more appropriate if you threw to Ruiz.
Yeah.
Dickey, a first-time All-Star at age 37. Ruiz, a first-time All-Star at age 33.
What a battery mate story that would be.
Here's Hunter Pence. And he lines one over short. And a leaping grab by Tejada. Murphy robbed him the first time with a leaping catch. And now Tejada turns in another gem. Pence wondering where he needs to go for a base hit. I guess a few inches higher. That's not working. Recently helped the Lower East Side Girls Club expand their program. The $5,000 grant was used to create 2 more teams, opening up free access for even more girls. To find out more about their story and those of past recipients, go to sny.tv/playball. Andres Torres leads off the home 4th inning. Torres, a late addition to the lineup, had a base hit and scored a run in the Mets' 3-run second. And he takes high from Vance Worley. Torres, Tolle, and Neese, the lower third of the order up for the Mets in the bottom of the 4th. That's with 4 runs and 7 hits. The Phillies 1 run and only 2 hits. A wild game they've got going on in Milwaukee. The Marlins were down 9-2, rallied with 6 runs in the 8th. 11-11 Miami and Milwaukee going to the bottom of the 9th. Marlins finally put together a good series over the weekend, sweeping the Phillies before losing last night. And they lost it on a squeeze bunt to the Brewers 6-5. Just off the plate, 2-2.
That's interesting. I was asking someone, one of my friends who watches all the Marlin games, has been to about 15 of them already. I said, how's Reyes playing? He goes, the only word I can come up with is cautious, which I thought was an interesting word to use with Jose Reyes' play.
Strike 3 call. Nice job by Worley finding that inside corner that Ronnie was talking about earlier. 3rd strikeout for Vance. I want to take a moment to send out our best wishes to our friend Bob Waterman, who does such an incredible job covering Mets baseball for the Elias Sports Bureau. Bob's a little under the weather, and I know he's watching at home. So, Bob, we miss you greatly. He never misses a game. So to have Bob out even for one night is a very unusual circumstance. Nobody knows more about stats and the Mets than Bob does.
If you're in a hurry and you got a question to ask Bob, my suggestion is wait till the next game. A little more time. But get better, Bob. We love you.
Tolle hits one behind Worley and into center field. A base hit. So Tolle is 2 for 2. Sincerely, Bob.
Well,
get well soon.
You know, to let you folks know at home, we get before the game these Elias notes that give us a little extra insight to the game we're going to watch. And Bob just produces great notes. But if the Mets have lost 3 or 4 in a row, the notes can be a little sour.
He gets a little snarky.
He does, doesn't he?
Here's Neese, who drove in his first 2 runs of the season with a base hit in the second inning. Up there to bunt this time, and bunts it nicely. Ruiz has to go out to get it. 2-4 on the sacrifice. Neese's 5th sacrifice of the year. By the way, we haven't talked about it much because, you know, you don't emphasize something that you take as a matter of course, but the Mets bunting by their pitchers has been so much better this year than it was last year.
They're 34th and their opponents at 22. So it just tells you just not only how much better they've been their opponents, but how much better they've been. Last year, it was what? 75% they weren't going to get it down. I mean, that's what it felt like.
So a runner in scoring position for Tejada, who is 1 for 2. Single to left his last time up. That's already 3 for 4 with runners in scoring position today, which hasn't been the guarantee of success since they've had 2 guys thrown out of the bases. Tolle, who's at second base now, was thrown out trying to go first to third on the base hit by Neese. And Tejada, who's at the plate now, was thrown out at the plate on Murphy's double to finish the second.
All the outfielders for the Philadelphia Phillies have strong, accurate arms.
And all playing pretty shallow with Tejada at the plate.
Pence throws a bit awkward, but he has a great arm. Victorino, the best and most accurate, and Mayberry, of course, playing the shorter left field. Easier throw.
We've already seen Mayberry make one good throw today. That relay through Rollins to get Tejada at the plate. Ball and a strike to Rubin.
88 miles an hour run on that fastball. I remember Worley throwing harder last year.
Well, you know, he had the problem coming out of spring training. He's a guy that the ball moves a lot. He's got a lot of sink on his fastball when it's right.
He's had the, you know, like you said, the arm problems this year, a stint on the DL. But to me, the difference between 91, 92, and 88, that's a big difference. That gives a hitter a little extra split second to adjust to the secondary pitches.
Daniel Murphy would be next. And starting with Tejada's opening at bat tonight, 11 pitches. Worley's had to work awfully hard, and the Mets, who make it a point every night to try and work starting pitchers, get into bullpens, have certainly worked Worley hard in the first 4 innings tonight. By the way, speaking of bullpens, the Phillies right now are carrying 4 lefties in their bullpen. They had 5 until yesterday. It's a perfect formula, though, when you're going up against the Mets. And Worley runs another full count against Tejada. Philly bullpen has been a little questionable, but their closer Jonathan Papelbon is going to the All-Star game. Although his performance has not been quite as good lately as it was earlier in the year.
He's been good in save opportunities. It's when he's brought in non-save opportunities that it's really been difficult.
3-2, and Tejada lines one into center, a base hit. Let's see if Tolle can score. Here comes the throw by Victorino to the plate, and Ruiz can't snag it, and Tolle scores. Down to second goes Tejada. 5-1 New York.
Well, works the full count, gets a fastball right down Broadway. And that's what doesn't try to do too much with it. This hits the backside of the the mound, and kind of scoots up the line. If that, you know what? You got to knock the catcher on your fannies in a way like that. You're going to get hurt.
It's an awkward reach with that left foot by Tolle.
You can get hurt. You're trying not to hurt the catcher. You're going to wind up hurting yourself.
Yeah.
So now the Mets with a 4-1 lead. Here's Murphy, who's already got a double and a triple tonight. And
he lines one into left field for his 3rd hit of the night. Here comes Tejada around third. He'll score without a throw. Daniel Murphy with an RBI single. It's 6-1 New York. He's only a home run away from the cycle.
Oh, right down the pipe.
Now Murphy's been swinging a hot bat. 3 for 3 tonight. Kevin Burkhardt has had an early start to his 4th of July, sitting by the pool somewhere, firing up the barbecue. So Eamon McIntyre's filling in. Eamon, how you doing?
I'm all right, Gary. Happy to be here. You know, Daniel Murphy having another big night here, swinging a hot bat. I thought it was interesting because in the last homestand, Terry Collins said Daniel Murphy's going to get out of this playing real games, not somewhere in the cage working on his mechanics. He needs to face real pitching. And talking to Daniel Murphy earlier tonight, he thought that was the key because he said you can't replicate the real speed of Major League pitching. So he thought it was key that he kept getting those at-bats, getting confidence, and finding a feel. He says he found a feel now, and he's just trying to ride it for as long as he can. And Terry Collins telling me right now he likes his balance at the plate, and he thinks he's hitting the ball harder now, right now on this stretch, than even earlier in the year, Gary, when he was hitting well over 300.
He's up to 287 now with his 3 for 3 tonight.
Well, we all know how the hitters today love to go down that cage and hit and hit and hit. And you know what? When you're in a hot streak, you only get so many hits. You don't want to waste them in the cage.
David Wright's 0 for 2, 2 groundouts. One of them scored a run. And Worley gets ahead of him 0 and 2. That's 5 for 6 with runners in scoring position tonight. 6 runs and 10 hits now against Worley. Could have been a whole lot more with a better base running. Mets had some huge offensive games on their road trip. Most notably their 17-run barrage with the wind blowing out at Wrigley. But no home runs tonight, just a steady diet of hits as Worley moves right off the plate at 86 miles an hour.
A little signal pitch here, up and in.
Well, you know what? That's fair game. They're out there getting lit up.
The way David's reacted this year, I'd watch out on the next pitch. Worley, watch out.
They're going to go back in.
David has not been vulnerable this year when they pitch him inside. He's been able to make the adjustment and cover the plate. Now the 2-2, and David fouls back the fastball.
There are certain hitters that when you brush them back, they just start to get into the at bat.
You always find out which ones are those kind of hitters, and you leave them alone.
That's right. You don't go back in there. David's become that person this season.
He fouls off the breaking ball. Well, it took him a couple of years. I mean, after the beating in 2009, there were a couple of years there where you could move him off the plate with good results, as Raul Valdez, the former Met, first man up in the Philly bullpen. But that is not the case anymore with David. Having his best year. Two more 2-out runs for the Mets here in the 4th inning. They now have 174 2-out runs this year, the most in the National League.
He's breathing heavy. Jeez, heaving his chest.
He's had to do some heavy lifting. Wright hits one out to left field, and Mayberry is there. And that retires the side. But the Mets with a couple of 2-out RBI hits. After the sacrifice by Nice, Tejada cashes one in, his 12th RBI. And Murphy with his 3rd hit of the night drives in his 39th. 6-1 New York at Citi Field. sunsets when we were in Los Angeles. You know, we've got pretty good sunsets of our own.
That's pretty good when you're on the west side, right?
Exactly.
It's the same sun. Should be.
Right, you just don't have an ocean for it to set.
The sun over Jersey.
Sun over the Hudson. Yeah. Dropping behind the Palisades. Shane Victorino leads off the 5th inning. Victorino grounded out to third his first time up. John Neese has allowed just 2 hits over the first 4. And Victorino slashes one and a terrific stop by David Wright. Well, he's won gold in his career. He's back in that mode this year.
He has been wonderful at third base this season. His throwing woes are over. I think Ike has a lot to do with it. But he has just really been superb with the glove.
This is a very funny defensive team, isn't it? I was just mentioning. I was on the talk back there saying, you know, you'll watch this team occasionally play defensively, and they'll look like they never played before, and then they'll have a night like they're having so far tonight. Murphy, Tejada, Wright.
I mean, the Mets on a 7-game road trip had 3 of the worst defensive games that you could possibly imagine, and yet they went 4-3 on the trip. Lost all 3 of those hard defensive games, but were pretty much flawless in the other 4. And we're seeing it again tonight. Wigginton had a base hit his first time up, and Ty takes the curveball in the dirt. 2-2. Well, Wigginton filling in for Ryan Howard at first base. Howard down on rehab, and tonight playing for AAA Lehigh Valley, Ryan Howard hit a 2-run homer. Who'd he hit it off? Right-hander for Scranton Wilkes-Barre named John Mayne. He's trying to work his way back to the big leagues with the Yankees. Now it's foul, still 2-2. Well, there are the current standings in the National League East. The Mets 3.5 behind the Nats, and the Phillies in last place 11 behind. And just for giggles, let's look at the standings last year at this time. We'll do that in a moment. That's what they were at this point last season. Quite reversed.
Wow.
Not just for the Mets and the Phils, but for the Nationals as well. Outside ball 4, and Wigginton draws Neese's first walk of the night. John had retired 8 in a row before that walk.
Phillies had 17 more wins at this point last season.
Well, tonight's game is officially at the end of the first half of the season. It's the 81st game. And if the Mets are going, there's a tweet of the game. Go ahead, Gary.
Well, our Toyota tweet of the game. What are your thoughts on whether the Phillies can compete for the NL title? Let us know what you think. Tweet to @SNYTV with the hashtag SNYMets, and we'll check back later and see what you said. Let's hear what Keith says.
Well, yeah.
Mayberry grounds one toward the hole. Tejada, nice backhand stop, and the throw to second got him. Wow. Tejada with his second sparkler of the night to get the force on Wigginton.
Well, beautiful backhand and a quick release. Murphy acting like a first baseman. Knows he has no chance to turn 2. Goes and gets it with the stretch, and that's a close play, boy.
He got him.
He did.
Well, the Mets certainly playing one of their better defensive games in a while. Now Hector Luna is going to bat for Vance Worley. So Worley's done after 4 innings after giving up 6 runs and 10 hits. And Luna, the former Cardinal, will bat, hitting a .250 for the year, and he takes a strike.
As I was saying here, this is officially the 81st game, and the Mets, if they win this one, will have 44 wins. A pace of, obviously, 2 times 44 is 88.
Good job.
And I'm proud of myself. I was a toughie. I had to think before it's opened my mouth there.
And the reason you mentioned that is 88 seems to be a popular number, a number that would get you into the playoffs, or at least, I mean, you certainly be in contention, but that seems to be the number for me that gets you at least as one of the other teams, and maybe not the division team.
Well, you've got 2 wild cards this year, so it probably takes a somewhat smaller number to get into that one-game wild card playoff. But you know, the way the postseason's structured now, there's a huge benefit to winning your division rather than merely being the wild card. More so than there was in any of the last 5 years when the Phillies won their division titles. Now being a wild card subjects you to that one and done game.
I always think of 1985, Ronnie, when we won 98 and went home.
Yeah, right. Had a tea time on October 4th or whatever it was.
How about the 93 Giants who won 103 and went home?
That's right.
Luna grounds out to Tejada. Another sparkler by Tejada helps Nice through the fourth. The fifth at 6-1. Getting off to a fast start against Vance Worley. Daniel Murphy already with a single, double, and triple tonight. Ruben Tejada a couple of hits. John Nice a 2-run single, and he's only allowed 2 hits over 5 innings. Jason Bay with the team. He was out on the field today doing some running, taking some swings as he works his way slowly back from the concussion. Hopes to be back very shortly after the All-Star break, but there's no given timetable there.
Raul Valdez in for the game for the Philadelphia Phillies. He's made a start for the Phillies, who've had a tough go of it sometimes with their starting pitching with injuries, but 12 of the 13 relief appearances he has had have been scoreless.
Ike Davis will lead off for New York in the home 5th inning. Ike is grounded to first and fly deep to left. Raul Valdez now 34 years old, and he throws the breaking ball. Strike one. Valdez pitched with the Mets 2 years ago. He was in 38 games for New York in 2010. Last year with the Cardinals and the Yankees, and now bouncing to the Phillies. And probably has pitched better for the Phils than he has for anybody else.
Well, he's their Miguel Bautista in the way that he can throw every day. He's got rubber arms. Made a start this year.
There's so many left-handers. He tried to get inside on Ike twice after a leadoff breaking ball. And just have a hard time throwing that for a strike.
Tap toward the hole. Polanco ranging wide and throws out Davis, one away. So Ike now 0 for 3. Vance Worley went just 4 innings, matching his shortest stint of the year. 82 pitches, 6 runs, 10 hits, a walk, 3 strikeouts. And in danger of losing for the second time to the Mets this year in just 2 starts. Here's Duda, who's been on base twice with a walk and an infield hit. He scored a run. in Milwaukee. That game between the Marlins and the Brewers went to the 10th. In the top of the 10th, with the score tied at 11, Jose Reyes homered against Livan Hernandez.
Not so cautious.
Well, maybe it was on a 63-mile-an-hour Bugs Bunny curveball.
That's right.
In any event, Marlins up 12-11 in the bottom of the 10th with Heath Bell on to try to save him. And Duda takes a fastball for a strike from Valdez, 1-2.
Keith, the left-handers like Duda and Davis, their game plan has been for that little lefty to throw that get-me-over slider, and they take it every time. What's the best way to counter that? Attack it, or it's hard to look slider first pitch?
I would feel that with Valdez, you're going to get he's going to throw you once in a while in, like he tried with Ike. He's going to pitch you away, whether it's fastball or slider. I stood on top of the plate. So does Duda.
Let me ask
Look out over the plate and take a rip.
Let me ask you this, Keith, because the other night Terry rested virtually all of his left-hand hitters against Clayton Kershaw. He left Duda in the lineup, but he sat Murphy and he sat Davis, sat Tolley. You know, the Mets are facing 3 left-handers in a row after tonight. They got Lee tomorrow night. They got Hamels on Thursday night. They'll face a lefty in the first game of the Cubs series. Are you better off leaving these guys in and letting them take their lumps against the lefties? Or are you better off going with lesser players who happen to be right-handed bats?
Well, I think, number one, that when the Mets put that lineup out there, they suffer so much defensively, and it showed in that game. Number two, I'm all for young hitters getting in there against the best and let them learn. The only way they're going to get to know a guy like Kershaw is to get at bats off of him and get a feel for him. Run him up there, let him play.
Because the alternative is if they don't get the at bats, they're going to remain the same all season long.
Here's Scott Hairston, who's been up twice and struck out against the righty both times. Now gets to face the left-hander.
You know, guys, I asked Terry Collins about that earlier today, how confident he is now in playing Davis and Murphy against lefties. And he says right now in this series, look, they see Lee. They have pretty good numbers against Hamill. So it looks like they're going to play the next 2 days as Hairston saws off his bat and loops one in the left for a base hit. Against the Cubs, he's not so sure because he's not sure how familiar they are with the left-handers that the Cubs are going to throw at him. But he mentioned, sort of agrees with Keith there, that, you know what, it's time to sink or swim against these elite lefties, especially since he thinks they've had some success against Hamels in the past.
It's an area of vulnerability for the Mets, no question about it. And it makes you really wonder as we move through July toward the trading deadline. When Sandy Alderson thinks about priorities, certainly the bullpen is high on his list. But is he thinking about bringing in a right-handed bat? Now, you're going to get Jason Bay back at some point, but is that enough?
I'm of the opinion I would want to, with the starting 5 the Mets are running out there, I want to improve my bullpen. That's my feeling.
So you can live with the bats?
Yes, I can. Very much so.
Considering the runs they scored in June, you might be right.
Of course, the other way to look at that is, just playing devil's advocate, they might have internal solutions in the bullpen, whether it's a Henry Mejia or a Josh Edgin or a Pedro Beato, whereas they might not have internal options as far as a right-handed bat is concerned.
Well, I think you're making my point, Gary. It's going to come from within. With all the teams that are possibly going to think that they're contenders, there's going to be a lot of buyers, not a lot of sellers, not a lot out there. So you're hoping Bay comes back and gives you the kind of performance you need, and you're hoping that your young people that are learning right now can come up and do what a lot of the AAA guys have done for the Mets this year, produce.
And you certainly don't want to, if you're going to make a move because you're a contending team, you do not want to give that wealth of talent up that can bring you something that can help you now. That, to me, those pitchers down in AAA and AA are untouchable.
But what about the next level of player? In other words, would you trade a Mejia to get some instant help? Would you trade a Beato, an Edgin?
I wouldn't put Mejia with Beato in that same thing.
Right.
I think Mejia's above. Beato, yes. Yeah, I think he could be included.
Torres goes down on strikes, so Valdez stands a pair in the inning. We're through 5 at Citi Field, to the Mets up 6-1. Matchups plus insider info and debate on the latest New York sports news on Daily News Live, Wheelhouse, and Loudmouths, all part of the New York Sports Local, weekdays starting at 5, only on SNY. John Neese cruising with a 6-1 lead as we start the 6th inning. Top of the order, and Jimmy Rollins takes the curve out of the strike zone. We gave you that update from Milwaukee. Marlins at a 1-run lead, bottom of the 10th, 2 out. 2-run homer by Aramis Ramirez off Heath Bell. Milwaukee wins 13-12. Can you have a worse year than Heath Bell is having?
And it's only half. It's already a bad year.
Rollins pops one up in his shallow center, and on comes Torres. One away. Well, we're reaching the halfway point of the season, so we're going to do a little report card on the various pieces of the Mets team, starting with the starting rotation. And this is the happiest piece to evaluate, because in so many ways they have so overperformed expectations this year.
Well, I'm not going to give a real grade because I'm more of a pass-fail guy. But when you look at it, we're looking at Johan Santana this year. You didn't know what you were going to get out of him because of the injury. And I would have used Yono, but I know Nohan with the no-hitter is one of the great stories, of course, for this franchise. R.A. Dickey, one of the great stories in all of baseball. Maybe the best story. Jonathan Neese pitching tonight, like Keith said. I think he is on his way to being one of those guys that is consistent 15-game winner. Chris Young is just a pro's pro. I think since he's been back, not only is he great his own day, but he helps everyone else around him, makes everyone else around him better. And I think, in some ways, Dylan G might have pitched better than he pitched last year when he had that great record, but he hasn't had as many runs or the luck. So, bad defensive effort behind him in his last start in the Dodgers. So, not much to say poor about this starting rotation.
I agree with you. I don't think that Dylan G's record is indicative of how much he's improved this year with his pitching. I like what I've seen from him. And also, I think Santana was 6-4. Santana, remember early, they didn't score any runs for him. Santana could be 8-9-4.
Well, now you look ahead to the second half of the season, and you've got questions that need to be answered despite the fine performance. One, can R.A. Dickey possibly be as good? Is he going to be 24-2 this year? Can Santana hold up and his shoulder hold up for the rigors of a full season? Can John Neese finish a season effective and healthy, which he's never done in his major league career, as a walk to Polanco gives the Phillies a 1-out base runner? Can Dylan G avoid the poor second half that he had last year? And can Chris Young stay healthy for the rest of the year? I think there are those questions for all 5 guys for the second half.
It definitely is, but I think the most important is because they've had starters who have been durable now for a couple years. Not only this year, is injury-free is the key, because we've seen what they have that comes up, and they're not at the same level as these guys, and I don't think they can compete at this level like the 5 guys they've got going right now.
Well, I think the only 2 worries, real concerns, are Young, obviously Chris Young, and Santana, because they had the serious surgery. I think this starting 5 is feeding off of each other. I think they're just one after the other, boom, 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 boom. It's like a snowball effect right here, and each one wants to keep it rolling. And I think a lot has to do with that man right there, R.A. Dickey. Mets have someone right now that can go out there every 5th day and stop the bleeding. It's almost an automatic win going out there. I mean, he's been that good.
And he's such a huge story that if you're the other 4 guys, just do your job. Just kick it in. You don't have to deal with all the other nonsense.
Well, story. I mean, a big enough story that the Today Show is calling. 60 Minutes is calling.
Yeah, exactly.
At this point, halfway through the year, he's probably the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year.
There you go. Right.
But let me go back to what you said before about rotation depth, because right now, if you say you get to the middle of August and the Mets, for whatever reason, lose a starting pitcher, what are your options? Are you going to go to a Jeremy Hefner? Are you going to push the envelope with a Matt Harvey
that's the
and
question.
bring him up, or are you going to go outside of the organization to try and bring in some starting rotation insurance, a guy who can be a long man but could step in as a starter if needed?
Well, I think that the organization. Well, I shouldn't speak for the organization, but I'm just going by the way see those NL ranks.
Chance for a double play. Davis to Tejada and back to Davis, but not in time. Slow developing, and so Utley able to beat the Rapid first.
Got to turn those 2. Got to turn them. Let's see what happens here.
Little throw off to the side. Okay, so ice got to come more over the top. Can't throw that little sinker to your shortstop. But go ahead, Ronnie. I'm sorry.
I think that the thing is going. I can't judge what the organization thinks, but I can just judge by how you use people. And I think that they have a high regard for Miguel Batista and what he can do if he had to be shoved back into the rotation. I can only go by how they use him. So I think that's where they'd go. Now, as far as the Harvey question, well, that would be the great thing, is that you could bring up a kid who would be ready to pitch at this level. Problem is, you always have that inning stuff to work with. And how many innings is Harvey going to throw in AAA? If he throws 150, how many would you have him here for anyway?
He's made the All-Star team in AAA.
No, he's done. He's on his way.
What I love is when you can watch SNY in the morning when I get up and look at the highlights, and you got Harvey pitching. And what I've seen on the highlights, he's been terrific.
Good curveball. It's fouled off by Ruiz. Still 0-2. I want to go back to what you said about Batista, though, because right now Batista's become a very key member of Terry Collins' bullpen. He's really the 8th inning guy right now. So if you take him out of that and you have to put him in the rotation, does that mess with the bullpen too much? I mean, we're talking about total speculation here. I mean, the Mets hope that nobody gets hurt and these 5 guys are able to finish the season without a hiccup. But very few teams are able to do that over the course of a full season. Torres drifts back and gets to Ruiz's fly ball. All great fodder for conversation as we move toward the second half of the year. Nice cruising with a 6-1 lead in the 6th. Wow. By the way, you ever notice how the ball carries when the roof's open in Milwaukee?
It does. We don't talk about those ballparks that the ball jumps out of. Chicago White Sox, that ball jumps out of that ballpark too.
Tolley hooks one toward the hole. Utley slides over to get it. And Tolley retired for the first time tonight. 1 out and nobody on. SNY's Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. John Neese having himself a fine night on the mound and at the plate. Drove in 2 runs with a second inning single and then sacrificed in the 4th. By the way, John has 4 hits in his last 10 at bats.
You see the batting average.
Ryan Sanchez up in the Phillies bullpen. Raul Valdez working his second inning of relief.
It's all this stuff together, guys. That the starting pitchers are, there's different fraternities. We were talking about that before within a team. The relievers, the starting pitchers, the everyday players, bench players, and R.A. Dickey and Santana, who are the two leaders of that pitching staff, they go up there, they're ripping, they're trying to get a base hit, working as hard to put the ball in play. And I think it's filtered down to Jonathan Neese. Chris Young gets a knock every once in a while. Largest strike zone on the planet.
And they all field their positions well.
Yeah.
I mean, Dickey is, a Gold Glove caliber, and so is Santana.
And hold runners well, other than Chris, but that's because of his size and going to the plate.
Full count to Neese with Ruben Tejada on deck. Vance Worley went 4 innings, allowed 6 runs and 10 hits. It's trying to beat the Phillies for the 7th time in 10 tries this year. And that's ball 4, and Neese is on base again. So 1 out and 1 on. Let's take a drive around the majors presented by Cadillac. We mentioned Aramis Ramirez, his 2-run, 2-out walk-off home run in the bottom of the 10th. Ian Desmond, a 2-run homer. Tim Lincecum knocked out in the 4th inning, gave up 7 earned runs. Jordan Zimmerman pitching for the Nats as they lead the Giants. And the Cubs got 3 in the 3rd after a rain delay, and they lead the Braves 3-1 in the 3rd.
So Lincecum and Bell are in the race for the worst year.
Well, Lincecum had one good start last start, but that was against the Dodgers, who obviously have not been hitting much. And tonight the Nats just tore him up. If you're the Giants, there was talk early this year when Matt Cain signed his contract that Lincecum would be next. The way he has gone this year, can you even think about signing him long term?
No.
Good change up by Valdez 1-1.
Or you can if the price has come down now with this difficult year, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, is he a bargain at this point, or because of his unusual delivery, do you look askance and say, here's a little guy who may have burned himself out?
Offered him $100 million, the Giants, and boy, oh boy, that is inflation, hyperinflation proof. You couldn't get that contract in front of me fast enough.
Well, let me give you a note that maybe ties all of that together. And Tejada lines one off the glove of Rollins, and Tejada has his 3rd hit of the night. Neese pulls in at second, so Ruben continues to sting the ball every time up.
Well, just a hanging slider. I've never seen so many fat pitches in a Wago in a very long time. Just out of the reach of Rollins.
Mets infielders are taller tonight. Murphy and Tejada both able to make leaping grabs. Rollins not quite. Anyway, today, another young pitcher who burst on the scene with tremendous charisma and talent announced his retirement. Dontrelle Willis, after numerous comeback attempts, finally called it quits. And it's a cautionary note for anybody who wants to pay a young pitcher based on early results,
which has been kind of the pattern of late. Jonathan Neese getting a nice contract.
Here's Murphy, already has a single, double, and triple tonight. Hit 3 home runs on the last road trip, and now a home run away from a cycle tonight.
Well, for Dontrelle, and sadly so, it wasn't only the physical problems on the mound that he suffered from, and we wish him well.
Well, you can see the defense there really giving right center field. Look at this, the Grand Canyon right there. Tantalizing Murph to get him to try to pull. They really got him shaded to the opposite field. I shouldn't say shaded. They're playing him to the opposite field for sure.
And Valdez gets a strike. Well, Terry Collins went with Tejada hitting leadoff and Murphy hitting second today, and they've each responded with a 3-hit game.
Well, 6 hits and 2 runs and 2 RBI. Very productive 1-2 in the order tonight. That's where you got to go.
Mets now with a dozen hits tonight.
The only problem you have with this defense is that it's nice when Valdez goes after Murphy hard with the fastball, but it's that slider that Murphy can pull that presents a problem with this kind of defense.
2-2, and Murphy fouls that one away. It'd be different if he were throwing 95 miles an hour.
That's right. And honestly, that was Murph in April and May, wasn't it? 2 strikes, he would foul off 2 or 3 pitches until he got one to his liking.
Again, the 2-2, and he pops this one up. Infield fly roll will be called as Rollins settles under it and then gives way to Mayberry, negating the infield fly roll. That's the second out. First time Murphy's been retired tonight. So now with David Wright coming up, Charlie Manuel's on his way to the mound. He's got a right-hander in the bullpen. And rather than leave Valdez in to face Wright, he'll bring Brian Sanchez in instead. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon Wireless. Win Mets memorabilia from Verizon at Mets.com/Verizon Sweeps. Phillies player to win the National League batting title?
Ooh. That's a good question.
Trying to think through all those great Phillies teams in the 70s. Is it that far back? Is it even further back?
I think it's further back.
Richie Ashburn.
Right, Richie Ashburn. Pete never did it? No, Pete never did. He was older.
Philly.
Yeah.
Brian Sanchez on in relief for the Phils.
This is the second time he's come up with the Phillies. Designated for assignment. Went to Lehigh Valley and now has come back. We saw him a lot when he was with the Florida Marlins, now Miami Marlins.
David Wright, first man up against him with 2 out and 2 on in the 6th. Mets already up 6-1. David's gone 0 for 3 tonight, but drove in the first Met run with a ground out. Wright is just 1 for 11 in his career against Sanchez, which may be why Charlie Manuel targeted Sanchez for Wright in his return to the major leagues. He's got on base with a walk. Tejada singled his 3rd hit of the game. Tejada's only played 36 games this year. He already has 8 games with 3 or more hits.
Wow.
Including 3 4-hit games, and we'll have a chance for another one of those tonight. And the breaking ball inside to right, 2-1. What of Pablo Sandoval beating out David Wright? for the starting job at third. Giant fans obviously voted in droves, voting in Posey and Melky Cabrera as well as starting players for the National League team.
Silicon Valley beat the Hudson Valley, I guess.
See, Sandy Alderson tweeted, it's because of the colorful nickname, Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, well, there's always been, you know, when you have the fans vote, well, what can you do? I've never really liked it, to be honest with you.
Well, back in the 50s, the Cincinnati Red fans stuffed the ballot box. I think it was 1957, and voted in 7 of their players.
Yeah.
And the commissioner's office had to overrule that, and the fans had the vote taken away for about 12 years. Wasn't reinstated until I think 1969 or 70, when they, you know, started the punch-out ballots. But you know, you're going to have inequities anytime you have the fans voting, and you know, certainly Ruiz and Molina both deserve the catcher's spot over Posey. Wright obviously deserved third base over Sandoval, who's missed a healthy portion of the season. You know, Matt Kemp is out. It's tough.
Yep.
Runners go on the 3-2, and David fouls it off.
Well, in 1985, when I was at the All-Star game in the National League with Dick Williams as the manager, started Greg Nettles at third base, Templeton at shortstop, Gwynn in right field, Lamar Hoyt pitching, Steve Garvey at first base, Terry Kennedy behind the plate.
Well, they did win the year before.
Still, come on.
You see the National League reserves. Again, the 3-2. Foul back. Of course, the you know, David handled his lack of a starting spot with grace, which is more than you can say for Johnny Cueto, who was left off the National League All-Star team and took some really nasty personal shots at Tony La Russa.
Well, you know, the last time they got up close and personal, Cueto was behind home plate trying to spike people in a fight.
He kicked Jason LaRue and pretty much ended his career in that fight.
So hang with him, boss.
Fly ball deep center field. Back goes Victorino to the track. Back near the wall. It's out of here. David Wright with a 3-run homer. Home run number 10 for Wright, and it's 9-1 New York.
Well, there was nothing Sanchez was throwing up to David Wright that could get him out. He had so many good cuts and pitches, and he finally got one over the middle. And that is the big blow of the game right there. That just kind of puts it out of reach. Although you had one tonight up in Milwaukee that was 9-2.
Career home run number 193 for David Wright. That vaults him past Howard Johnson into third place on the Mets all-time home run list.
Little cutter away.
Upstairs, down Broadway, and see ya.
Quite a year. I mean, this is the last game of the first half. David now has 10 home runs and 54 runs batted in. He's hitting over 350. He's putting together an MVP caliber season.
And a lesson learned, hopefully, for David is that this is a season where he's been very disciplined, Gary. Started out going up the middle, didn't have a lot of home runs early. Here we are at the halfway point. He's at a pace for 20. He's at a pace for over what, 110 RBI.
That was a great graphic, right? 24% of the home runs by the Mets have come with runners on base. They're turning into the 1966 Orioles.
Well, we mentioned Ike Davis and all of his 3-run homers and his grand slam. For David Wright, that's the first home run he's hit this year with 2 or more men on base. All of his home runs have been solos or 2-run shots. Here, a 3-run homer to break this game open. Davis has gone 0 for 3 tonight. That's now with 13 hits. And he strikes out on a pitch in the dirt. And Ruiz would make the toss to complete the putout and end the inning, but not before David Wright strikes the blow. Mets' first home run of the night. And Wright takes one out to dead central. His 10th of the year, a 3-run blow And the Mets cruising 9-1 over the Phillies. What your thoughts are, whether the Phillies can compete for the NL East title. Don't seem to have the spirit. Don't see them making a comeback. And, well, the Cardinals did it last year. Maybe the Phillies can this year.
You never know. You know, you see a team demoralized. They're down the dumps. They're playing terrible. You know, they've got some obviously key players missing. But they look a little demoralized to me.
Well, I'm not on Twitter, but go ahead, Gary.
Well, talking about buyers and sellers at the deadline, that may depend on what they do over the next few weeks.
And I'm not on Twitter, but you'd have to hashtag Iguana Flats at some point, wouldn't you? The first one?
Pence has been robbed of hits each of his first two at-bats. And this time he hits it between Murphy and Tejada, where neither one could make a leaping grab. And Pence finally gets himself aboard. Would be 3 for 3, but for the Met gloves.
Well, you know, people in the paper will pick it up tomorrow. You know, say, oh, Pence just went 1 for 4. They can't see that he hit 3 rockets.
I'm not sure I knew Tejada could get that high. That's quite the elevation.
Well, that's what happens when you play in front of a full house. It's a beautiful crowd tonight.
Fireworks after the game tonight. Tolley has trouble with that one, and Pence will arrive safely at second base.
It's nice to see a full house in the ballpark. So that's not a lot of footwork there from Tolley at all.
Be a wild pitch charge to Nice, his 5th of the year.
And that's probably one where Josh goes out there and says, hey, my bad. Come on, pick me up.
Well, this will be the first at bat for the Phillies tonight with a runner in scoring position. Ruiz homered for the only run leading off the second inning. Victorino 0 for 2. David Wright made a nice play and threw him out last time up, a diving stop. Victorino's always been a better right-hand hitter than left, but never more so than this year. His splits are radical, hitting .320 from the right side starting the night, just .233 left-handed. And a curve, line to right. You better find a different venue.
Well, when things are going bad for you, Ronnie,
well, you hit it at people, and they make defensive plays. And if things are going good for you as a pitcher, every time you make a mistake, it's an out, and you're getting 26 runs in over 2 starts.
How about that? He's got 17 runs in Chicago's last start, 9 more tonight. It's got to be an art to that, right?
I could make that work right now, although I would be 5 and fly.
Here's Wiggins, and he takes the strike. Wiggins singled through the hole into right in the second and then walked in the fifth. Phillies only have 3 hits against John Neese tonight. One thing the Mets have been very good at over the last month and a half or so is minimizing the use of their bullpen. One of the reasons why the Mets have been as successful as they have, their bullpen has struggled, but their starters are going deep enough into games on a regular basis that it's reduced the number of outs necessary for that bullpen. Now, earlier in the season, that was not the case. They were being very protective of Santana, so he wasn't going deep into games. Neese and G had games where they couldn't go all that deep. But that's changed.
Yeah, they've all been pushed, other than Santana, although he has the most pitches thrown this season, into that 115, 120 level now.
And I think we're just getting back to where the game used to be. You look at the Mets bullpen, and you've got the old-fashioned middle reliever now that can go out there in Hefner, who can go out and give you even Batista, even though Batista's been pushed because of Francisco on the DL. But Batista is a former starter. And the guys that can go early in the game and give you 3 innings of middle relief instead of this one inning with the relief pitchers. Just drove me crazy.
Strike 3 called, and Wigginton is out on strikes.
And you're seeing pitchers going deeper now. I think you want to get 7 out of your starters.
Well, I think what has happened, and it doesn't happen every year, but for the Mets, their best 5 pitchers are their starters. You want them to be on the field the longest.
There's John Mayberry, who has struck out and grounded into a fielder's choice. A terrific play by Tejada in the 5th. Mets have made half a dozen terrific defensive plays tonight on the infield in support of John Neese. Let's answer our AT&T trivia question. We asked who was the last Philly to win the batting title. I think it was Richie Ashburn.
I believe it was. Yep.
Wow, 350.
That's not easy. That's not too many sleepless nights, I guarantee you that.
I'll tell you what wasn't easy. Second in that batting race, Willie Mays, 347. Third in that batting race, Stan Musial, 337. Fourth in that batting race, Hank Aaron. You beat out Mays, Musial, and Aaron.
You earned it.
Done some heavy lifting. Probably didn't have the power numbers of those guys.
That's all right. That wasn't his game.
But nobody had more base hits in the 1950s than Richie Ashburn. Grounded down to third, and right handles it nicely. And that retires the side. So Neese works around the leadoff hit. And he's held the Phillies to just 3 hits over 7. 9-1 New York. You by Geico. By State Farm. Tonight's State Farm agent of the day is Pat Cawley of Glendale. Contact Pat's office at patcawley.org. And by New York State. Discover what you love. Plan your vacation now. Ballpark barbecue at Citi Field tomorrow afternoon before the Mets host the Phillies at 1:10 for just $49. Your ticket includes a pregame all-you-can-eat barbecue and beverages. Visit Mets.com/BBQ for your tickets. Let's take a look at the Mets box score presented by New York Community Bank. Big days at the top of the batting order for Tejada and Murphy, each with 3 hits. And David Wright with the coup de grace, a 3-run homer. And has the Mets ahead 9-1 as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning. Ryan Sanchez, who gave up said 3-run homer, stays on to pitch in the 7th against Duda, Hairston, and Torres. The Mets with 9 runs and 13 hits. The Phillies just 1 run and 3 hits. Well, we mentioned at the outset of the broadcast that one of the, if not goals, then certainly possibilities for the Mets this week is to bury the Phillies, and they have taken their first step with this onslaught tonight. They'll have Chris Young going up against winless Cliff Lee tomorrow afternoon, and then R.A. Dickey pitches the final game of the series on Thursday night against Cole Hamels. That's quite a matchup of all-star pitchers as you look at your city probables for the remainder of the series. I have to tell you, the R.A. Dickey start has become such a phenomenon that I now have people who are not really big baseball fans.
They want to go.
They want to go when Dickey's pitching.
Me too. Just say no. I love having that kind of power.
Duda pops one up into shallow center. Victorino got a late start, but he'll get there. 1 pitch and 1 out for Sanchez in the 7th. I mean, the Mets have had a lot of good pitchers over the last quarter century, but there has not been a guy to generate that kind of buzz outside of maybe the first year of Pedro Martinez. Other than that, you have to go back to Dwight Gooden.
And then before that, Seaver. Right. What is the phrase? Fannies in the seats, guys who put people in the ballpark. You know, when Dwight would pitch in the middle 80s, everyone had to be there. It was an event. If you weren't there, you know, you weren't part of the New York scene.
And it's becoming exactly that now for Robert Allen Dickey in his starts.
And I just think it's a great American story of never just perseverance and never quit and just keep plugging. And look at him now on top of the world. Or Kilimanjaro.
Well, he was on top of the world a while ago.
Yeah. Well, I guess next winter, Everest.
Right. Right.
Where else is there to go at this point? Scott Hairston 1 for 3, singled into left field his last time up. He is only at bat against the lefty tonight. Now facing the right-hander Sanchez. Valdez gave up 2 runs and 2 hits in an inning and 2/3. The starter Worley charged with 6 runs and 10 hits in his 4 innings. You know, it's funny, and we talked about this in Chicago when the Mets were putting on that onslaught against the Cubs. You know, one of the knocks against the Mets early this season was that they were winning, but their run differential was negative. And so the sabermetrically inclined said, well, then it's unsustainable. Now they've had a few blowout wins, and all of a sudden they have a positive run differential. So I guess now their success is more sustainable. 2 fly balls to Victorino for the first 2 outs. Coming up on Geico Sports Night after the post game, Darren Williams, Jeremy Lin, Zach Parisi, basketball and hockey. Wait a second, isn't it July? Geico Sports Night after the post game, right here on SNY. There's Andres Torres, singled and scored back in the 2nd. Since then, he's been called out on strikes twice. Kirk Neuenhuis was in the original lineup tonight, had to be scratched after suffering what they called a right hand contusion during batting practice, and because it happened right before first pitch, we have no other details about how it happened or how severe that injury might be. Bounce toward first, a foul ball.
You know, to go back to that stats you were talking about, run differential. You know, you put yourself in a place, if you are inclined to think about those stats in that way, that if the Mets do have a magical year, no one calls you out on it. It's just like the guy on TV talking about this quarterback is a can't miss.
Right.
5 years later, Ryan Leaf can't throw a pass. Where's that show? Come on with that show and tell me why Ryan Leaf didn't make it. Why I was wrong.
Well, as far as run differential is concerned, I seem to recall a few years ago the Arizona Diamondbacks going to the League Championship Series minus 20 runs for the year. So it happens. You know, ball games and seasons evolve in different ways. And I understand it's less likely to be successful when you get outscored badly, but it's certainly not impossible. Just depends on the way the games are played from day to day. Torres thrown out on the slow ground ball. 9-1 after 7. In Tuesday game in 2012, you can score both a ticket on the left field landing and a limited edition T-shirt for just $19. Shirts will feature unique designs throughout the season with a different shirt offered at each game, so make sure to act now and get to Citi Field for the remaining T-shirt Tuesdays. The next T-shirt Tuesday is July 24th. Visit Mets.com for more info and get your tickets. And here's tonight's T-shirt. It's Mr. Met taking a hack at the Liberty Bell, and it says the real story of how the Liberty Bell got its crack.
Well, you know me, I'm kind of a neat freak. I've already folded it ready for my son Jordan when I get home. So
it's really typical. You are buttoned up. So I thought that was a very clever T-shirt design tonight. Juan Pierre pinch hitting for the Phillies against Nice, who's trying to get through 8 innings for the first time this year. Pierre's had a terrific year for the Phils, hitting at .318, and particularly against the Mets, against whom he's hitting .500 this year. John Roush up in the Mets bullpen in case Nice needs 8th inning help. A little floater down the left field line, and that goes foul. Nice's longest outing was 7 2/3, May 23rd in Pittsburgh. A 3-1 win. He's up about to throw his 100th pitch of this game. Threw 118 in his last start in Chicago in 7 innings. And Pierre stops the swing. 2-2.
But that was pretty oppressive heat and pitching with the wind blowing out. That was as impressive a start as he's had all season long.
Curveball tapped to shortstop. Tejada plays it cleanly and throws out the speedy Pierre. 1 out. So 1 out and nobody on. Now Jimmy Rollins, who's 0 for 3 tonight. Now 0 for his last 14. Speaking of Nice, throwing 7 2/3 in Pittsburgh. When the Mets were in Pittsburgh, the Pirates were hands down the worst offensive team in the league. All of a sudden, the Pirates can score runs. And out to center field, chasing Torres back, a long way back, and he'll get there for the second out. Let's check in with the studio. Chris Carlin standing by for this game break. Okay, Chris, here's Placido Polanco, who's 0 for 2 and a walk. We were talking about the Pirates. Pirates have scored 52 runs in their last 6 games. They're now 7 games over 500, only a game behind the Reds in the NL Central. And tonight they were down 4-0 and 6-2 against the Astros. It's now 6-5. I mean, they're all of a sudden an offensive juggernaut. It's not just McCutchen anymore.
Well, they've had a lot of young players that they've kind of awarded the jobs to. Said, listen, you go out and play. The only one that's really come through is McCutchen in center field, having, I think, an MVP type season. And Garrett Jones has gotten hot. Their second baseman Neil Walker's playing better. McHenry, the guy, the catcher who hit a 3-run home run off Santana, or a 2-run home run, he's got 6 home runs and driving in some runs.
You mentioned those young players today. They sent Jose Tabata to the minor leagues. Grounded to the right side. Ike goes a long way to smother it. Nice gets over to cover, and Davis puts it right on target to retire the side. Nice gets through 8 for the first time this year with a little help from his first baseman going a long way and making the perfect toss from his knees. Comes on to pitch for the Phils.
We'll see Diekman's record there. He's a kid that they are so high on. One of the reasons he's one of the number of lefties out there. Throws 95 plus, kind of throws across his body, and sometimes suffers with control problems, but he's got all the stuff to be a great left-handed reliever.
SNY's Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. Josh Tolley is 2 for 3 tonight. Will lead off for the Mets in the bottom of the 8th. Justin Turner's come out on deck to bat for John Neese. So Neese goes 8 innings for the first time this year, but will not go 9. Another stellar outing for John. Last outing allowed just 1 run with the wind blowing out at Wrigley. Tonight just 1 run over 8 innings. And Tolley takes up an in from Diekman, 1-0. Well, we've watched the development of John Neese this season through half a year. He's about to go to 7-3 on the year, an ERA under 3.5. A terrific third wheel in that rotation behind 1 and 1A.
Well, think about the last 3 out of 4 wins for the Mets. R.A. Dickey goes 8 innings, 3 hits, no runs. Santana goes 8 innings, 3 hits, no runs. Neese goes 8 innings, 3 hits, 1 run. That's off the charts good.
That's what you expected from the Phillies.
Yeah.
That's when you get to smile a lot more. And Tolley has his 3rd hit of the night. So 3 different Mets have 3 hit games. And the Mets get the leadoff man on in the 8th. Now Justin Turner will come up to pinch hit. Turner started Sunday night in L.A., went 0 for 4 and had an error at first base. That was part of that defensive meltdown. The Mets have had a very different kind of a night tonight. A night that has featured stellar defensive play on the infield. Plenty of offense and great pitching. Turner at 258 on the season. It's got strong work early in the year from Mike Baxter as a pinch hitter before he got hurt. Turner having a fine year as a pinch hitter as well around his ankle injury. 7 for 19 pinch hitting.
$14 hits for the Mets. It's been a hit parade, that's for sure.
Down to third, Polanco. Utley comes off the bag, safe at second and safe at first. Utley was not given the neighborhood play by Jeff Kellogg, and everybody's safe.
Well, he made the right call here, and he does the pull. Watch, he goes inside the line, in towards first base. He usually pulled back to towards the right field side. The throw kind of carried him into the runner.
But couldn't he have stretched? Did he have to jump off the bag like that?
He could have stayed on the bag. You got to wonder, maybe he's worried a little bit about that knee.
Yeah, if you reach with your right foot though and lean to make that play, you put yourself next to the runner.
He's got to make that play.
Yes, or at least get an out.
Well, they're going to score that an error on the third baseman, but boy, I'll tell you what, that's Utley's fault. So the Mets have 2 men on with nobody out, and Ruben Tejada, who's 3 for 4 tonight, steps in. Mets have had 6 4-hit games this year, and Tejada has half of them, and a chance for another 4-hit game tonight. And a fly ball out to shallow right where Pence is waiting. 1 out. So Tejada retired. And now Daniel Murphy gets another crack. And not only a 4-hit game, but also a chance for the cycle. Triple down the left field line in the first, double to left center in the second, and singled to left center in the fourth.
Appropriate, it would be the home run that he needs.
Well, he got 352 at bats without a home run before he hit 2 in a row in Chicago and added another for good measure in L.A. Tough though against this cross-firing left-hander, and he takes ball 1. Mets have had 10 players hit for the cycle, including one this year. And that's driven to the gap in right center, and Murphy will have another extra base hit. Tolley scores. Here comes Tejada. A 2-run double for Daniel Murphy. A 4-hit game for Murphy, 11-1 New York. And he is driving the ball tonight.
Well, Keith, against that defensive, giving them the right center field gap.
Well, fastball right down Broadway again. I've seen so many pitches down the pipe. You got to hit them, and Murph, whenever you go into a slump, the good hitters, when you break out hot. And red hot is Daniel Murphy.
Got Turner all the way home from first. So a 2-run double for Murphy. The Mets rolling offensively tonight. And now David Wright, who had a 3-run homer his last time up. With that home run, his 10th of the year, David now has 9 seasons of double-digit home runs, which is the first time a Met has ever done that. Three different Mets had 8 years of double-digit home runs. Ed Kranepool, Mike Piazza, and Darryl Strawberry. But Wright, the first Met with 9 seasons of 10 or more home runs, and he's done it 9 consecutive years. And he takes a big rip and strikes out. So Diekman has his second out of the inning.
This is first impressive pitching there by Diekman.
So 2 out now. Ike Davis, who's been held in check tonight, 0 for 4. Sellout crowd tonight here at Citi Field. 42,516 for the game and the fireworks to come. The largest crowd in Citi Field history. They set that record a couple of times during the Yankees series and broke it again tonight.
Wow, it's nice to see.
Boy, it's fun for a player, folks, to play in front of a packed house, especially when you're having a night like this.
1-1 to Davis.
What was that line I told you Dan Worthen said after the last Nice game when they won 17-1? Great day to be a coach. Pitching is great. Hitting is great.
Oh, to the backstop. And no move by Murphy.
This one just got away a little bit.
By the way, it's Daniel Murphy's second 4-hit game of the year. Mets have now had 7 4-hit games this year. Tejada has 3 of them. Murphy has 2.
There's a cross up there to Ruiz. That's why he's going out to speak to his young left-hander.
4th of July tomorrow. That means day baseball. Second game of the series. Chris Young goes for the Mets. Cliff Lee still looking for that elusive first win. Pitches for the Phillies. 12:30 the coverage tomorrow afternoon right here on SNY. Jake Diekman from Wymore, Nebraska. Nebraska, the home state of Richie Ashburn, of whom we spoke earlier. You know the story about Richie when he played for the '62 Mets. He was named the MVP of that team, and the prize for being the MVP was a boat. And they delivered the boat to Richie in Nebraska. He said, "What am I going to do with a boat in Nebraska?" Strike 3 called. And Davis is down looking to end the inning. But the Mets cash in a couple on Daniel Murphy's 2-run double, his 4th hit of the night. And they take a huge lead into the 9th at Citi Field.
scored upon. I shouldn't say that. He had that crazy outing in Chicago where the Mets made 3 errors and gave up 4 unearned runs, but a good outing in his last one.
That was in Los Angeles, the opening game of that series Thursday night. Called in to protect a 1-run lead in the 8th and did that handily. Chase Utley leads off in the 9th inning for the Phillies. Utley's gone 0 for 3 tonight, has not had the ball out of the infield. The Phillies with just 3 hits tonight against John Neese in his 8 innings of work. Neese allowed a run on 3 hits, walked 2, struck out 3, threw a wild pitch, and allowed a home run to Carlos Ruiz, the only run against him. And Utley hits one in the air to right field, and Duda's there to grab it. 1 out. Let's check in with the studio, see what's coming up on WB Mason Post Game Live. Chris Carlin and Bobby Ojeda. What you got, guys? Neese lowering his ERA to 3.35 tonight. It's only the 3rd time in his career he's gone as far as 8 innings in a game. He has 1 9-inning effort in his career. That was in 2010 against the Padres. And in his 2nd career start back in 08, he threw 8 innings against the Braves. And then tonight, those are the only 3 times he's ever gone 8 innings. He has 2 career complete games, but one of those was a rain-shortened affair. Ruiz homered back in the 2nd, his 12th of the year, for the only run for the Phillies tonight. And Roush quickly ahead of him 0-2. So the Mets on the verge of winning their 5th in their last 6 games and going 7 games over 500. The Nats also lead tonight. They're up 8-2 on the Giants in a rain delay in the 7th. So if all holds, the Mets would stay 3.5 behind Washington. One, 2, and he got him. John Roush with a strikeout gets Ruiz 2 down in the 9th.
Good slider here from Roush, his signature pitch. And getting that pitch down, there's been 2 things with Roush. Or maybe 3, I should say. He's throwing harder since he had that elbow problem. He's spotting his fastball and throwing it more. And when he gets ahead, he's burying that slider in the dirt. That's why he's been more successful.
Well, it turned around for John with the bases loaded in Tampa. Gary Ron, and he threw the fastball to get out of that jam. He got too in love with his breaking ball, whether it was his elbow issues or whatever, but he was throwing 92, 93 that day, and ever since then he's been on the beam.
Pence a tough 1 for 3 tonight. Takes a big hack and almost falls over doing it. 1-1.
It's a good thing to be on a beam in an Olympic year.
That's right.
It's a very narrow beam. And now the Phillies down to their final strike. By the way, in Pittsburgh, Garrett Jones 2-run homer, 7th inning. Pirates now lead the Astros 7-6. Wow. We were just talking about Garrett Jones.
Yeah.
One-two to Pence. Inside. Did it hit him? I believe it did. So Pence is hit by a pitch.
Oh, got him on the pinky. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, that might have gotten the knob of the bat, didn't it?
Yeah. Because he chokes up. Most players have their palm all the way down there on the end.
No argument from the Mets. Shane Victorino, the batter, and he grounds one off the bare hand of Roush, and he makes the nice pickup to end the ball game. Well, he used his bare hand, which you don't love to see, but Roush making the juggling grab, throwing out Victorino, and completing the victory for John Neese. As the Mets take the opener of the homestand, they've now won 5 of their last 6.
We always talk about starting pitchers having to face in their division their rivals. 4 starts now for Jonathan. He's 2-0, and with the innings the starters are accumulating, on a pace right now at the halfway point to have 4 starting pitchers over 200 innings.
And from an offensive point of view, the Mets blistered Philly pitching. 15 hits as a team, Tejada 3 hits. Murphy 4 with 4 RBI. David Wright 1 for 5 with his 10th home run, 4 RBI, and Josh Tolley with 3 hits.
Mets win at 11-1. Game summary presented by Citi. John Neese now 7-3, 3.35 ERA at the midway point of the season. Mets have played 81 games on a pace for 88 wins. Big night for Murphy, a 4-hit game. David Wright, a 3-run homer. Ruben Tejada and Josh Tolley each with 3 hits as the victorious Mets make their way off the field, and the fans here at Citi Field get ready for fireworks. Mets win it easily 11-1. Talk about fireworks. More from Citi Field coming right up.